I'm honestly afraid to get out of the car. Lieutenant Nazario's voice quivered as he faced the barrels of two police officers' guns. These words, spoken by a man who had faced combat, reveal the terrifying reality of being black in America. As we reflect on this real-life story, subscribe and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for more daily stories that need to be heard. Hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. In the next few minutes, you'll witness a confrontation that shook a nation and forced us to question the very foundations of our justice system. Are you ready to see the world through Lieutenant Nazario's eyes? The sun had set on a crisp December evening as Lieutenant Caron Nazario's SUV cruised down the quiet streets of Windsor, Virginia. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the soft hum of his engine. Nazario's mind focused on the road ahead, his military training keeping him alert despite the mundane drive. Suddenly, a flash of blue light in his rearview mirror shattered the peaceful night. Nazario's heart skipped a beat as he quickly assessed the situation. In a split second, he made a decision that would alter the course of the evening and his life. Instead of immediately pulling over, he activated his turn signal and began searching for a well-lit area. As the police cruiser drew closer, Nazario's palms grew clammy against the steering wheel. His eyes darted from the rearview mirror to the road ahead, scanning for a safe place to stop. The weight of his choice pressed heavily on his chest, each passing moment filled with a growing sense of dread. Nazario guided his SUV towards a brightly lit gas station just ahead. The neon signs cast an eerie glow across his face as he pulled into the lot. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The air in the vehicle grew thick with tension, making it difficult to breathe. As he brought his SUV to a stop under the harsh fluorescent lights, Nazario's heart pounded loudly in his ears. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours as he waited for the officers to approach. Little did he know, his decision to seek a well-lit area had already escalated the officers' suspicions. The relative quiet of the night was suddenly shattered by the screeching of tires as two police cruisers came to an abrupt halt behind Nazario's vehicle. The air crackled with tension, heavy with the weight of unspoken accusations and fear. Nazario's eyes widened as he watched the officers emerge from their vehicles, their hands hovering dangerously close to their holsters. In that moment, as the gravity of the situation settled over him like a suffocating blanket, Nazario realized that this routine traffic stop had become something far more dangerous. His training urged him to remain calm, but the primal fear coursing through his veins threatened to override years of discipline. As the officers approached, their faces set in grim determination, Nazario took a deep breath and they steeled himself for what was to come. The night air, once crisp and refreshing, now felt oppressive and thick with foreboding. The simple act of driving home had transformed into a nightmare scenario, one that would test Nazario's resolve and challenge everything he thought he knew about justice and safety in the country he had sworn to protect. At that moment, two worlds collided, the disciplined realm of military protocol and the unpredictable arena of civilian law enforcement. As Officer Daniel Crocker approached the SUV with tinted windows, his hand instinctively moved toward his holster. The crisp night air carried an electric tension, thick with unspoken accusations and fear. "Get out of the car now!" Crocker's sharp command pierced the night. Inside the vehicle, Lieutenant Caron Nazario's heart raced, adrenaline surging through his veins. "I'm honestly afraid to get out." Nazario's voice wavered, a stark contrast to his usual confident demeanor. His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of countless similar encounters that had ended in tragedy. Officer Joe Gutierrez's face contorted with anger, his patience wearing thin. "Yeah, you should be," he barked, his tone laced with a menacing undercurrent that sent a chill down Nazario's spine. As the situation escalated, Nazario's fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white with tension as he searched for a way to de-escalate the confrontation. "What's going on?" Nazario asked, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. He clung to the military's emphasis on clear communication, hoping to bridge the gap between his world of order and discipline and the chaos unfolding outside his vehicle. But his attempts at dialogue seemed to fall on deaf ears as the officers' voices grew louder, their commands becoming more insistent with each passing moment. The stark contrast between Nazario's measured responses and the officer's aggressive tactics highlighted the collision of two vastly different approaches to high-stress situations. As the lieutenant struggled to maintain his composure, he couldn't help but wonder how his battlefield discipline would fare against the unpredictable chaos of this civilian confrontation. With each passing second, the situation spiraled further out of control. Nazario's eyes darted between the two officers, their faces set in grim determination. In that moment, he felt the weight of two worlds pressing down on him: the structured, disciplined military life he knew, and the chaotic, unpredictable civilian world he now found himself trapped in. The gas station's harsh fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow over the scene, throwing long shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. As the confrontation reached its boiling point, Nazario's instinct to remain calm and seek clarity clashed violently with the officer's aggressive approach, creating a powder keg of tension that threatened to explode at any moment. Little did Nazario know, his next decision would set in motion a chain of events that would challenge not only his resolve, but the very foundations of justice and equality in the country he had sworn to protect. The acrid smell of pepper spray filled the air, burning Nazario's eyes and lungs. His world narrowed to a haze of searing pain as he gasped for breath, struggling to maintain his composure. Through streaming eyes, he could barely make out the blurred figures of the officers, their voices distorted and muffled. "Get out of the car now!" Officer Crocker's command pierced through the fog of agony. Nazario's hands trembled as he fumbled with his seatbelt, his fingers clumsy and uncooperative. The conflicting orders from both officers only added to his confusion, their shouts overlapping in a cacophony of aggression. As Nazario finally managed to exit the vehicle, his legs wobbling beneath him, Officer Gutierrez's chilling words cut through the chaos. "You're fixin' to ride the lightning, son." The threat hung in the air, heavy with menace, sending a shiver down Nazario's spine despite the burning in his eyes and throat. Disoriented and in pain, Nazario found himself forced to the ground, the rough asphalt scraping against his cheek. As he fell, something clattered to the pavement beside him, his military ID. The small object seemed inconsequential amidst the turmoil, but its presence would soon alter the course of the confrontation. One of the officers bent to retrieve the fallen ID, his brow furrowing as he examined it closely. A tense silence fell over the scene, broken only by Nazario's labored breathing and the distant hum of the gas station's fluorescent lights. The air crackled with unspoken tension as the implications of their actions began to sink in. He's a lieutenant," the officer muttered, his voice tinged with disbelief. The revelation sent a ripple of shock through both men, their aggressive postures faltering for a moment. They exchanged quick, uneasy glances, the weight of their mistake settling heavily upon their shoulders. The officer's demeanor shifted subtly as the reality of the situation dawned on them. Their earlier bravado began to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Nazario, still on the ground, could sense the change in the atmosphere. The officers' voices, once loud and commanding, now carried a note of uncertainty. As the night air crackled with tension, Nazario's mind raced. He couldn't help but wonder how this revelation would affect the outcome of this nightmare. Would his status as a military officer make a difference? Or would it simply be another detail lost in the chaos of the encounter? The officers conferred in hushed tones, their eyes darting between Nazario and his discarded ID. The power dynamic had shifted, and they found themselves on unfamiliar ground. The cocksure confidence that had fueled their earlier actions had evaporated, leaving behind a palpable sense of apprehension. At that moment, as Nazario struggled to his feet, still reeling from the effects of the pepper spray, he felt a glimmer of hope. But as he met the officer's eyes, he saw something that made his heart sink, a mixture of fear and defiance that told him this ordeal was far from over. The gas station parking lot, once a backdrop to a routine traffic stop, now stood as a silent witness to a pivotal moment. As Nazario straightened his uniform, his eyes stinging and his dignity in tatters, he knew that the repercussions of this night would extend far beyond this small town in Virginia. Little did he know, the events that had just unfolded would soon ignite a nationwide conversation about race, power, and the very nature of justice in America. The gas station's flickering lights had witnessed a confrontation that would echo across the nation. As Nazario drove away that night, he couldn't have imagined the tidal wave of change his ordeal was about to unleash. In the days that followed, his world became a blur of sleepless nights and anxiety-filled mornings. The trauma clung to him like a second skin, refusing to let go. As news of the incident spread, Nazario found himself thrust into an unexpected spotlight. His phone rang incessantly with reporters seeking interviews and lawyers offering their services. Fellow service members reached out, their concerns palpable even through text messages and voicemails. The once quiet Windsor Police Department now faced intense scrutiny, with Officer Joe Gutierrez terminated while Officer Daniel Crocker remained on the force. This disparity in consequences fueled the growing debate about systemic racism and police reform. In a surprising turn of events, Nazario's military superiors rallied around him, offering unwavering support that contrasted sharply with his treatment by local law enforcement. As he grappled with the psychological aftermath, experiencing a potent mix of anxiety, depression, and PTSD, his fellow soldiers became a lifeline, offering a glimpse of the respect and dignity he deserved. The lawsuit Nazario filed against the officers forced a long-overdue conversation about race, power, and justice. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam announced an independent investigation, emphasizing the need for accountability. As the case made its way through the legal system, it became a focal point for nationwide discussions about police conduct and racial profiling. The impact on Nazario's life was profound. Simple tasks like driving became anxiety-inducing ordeals, each police car a potential threat. His military training, once a source of pride and strength, now felt inadequate in the face of civilian prejudice. The federal jury's decision to award him $3,985 in damages was a bittersweet victory, acknowledging the assault while falling short of addressing the full scope of his traumatic experience. Standing at the crossroads of his military career and newfound role as a reluctant symbol of the fight against racial injustice, Nazario reflected on those fateful moments at the gas station. They had changed him forever, opening his eyes to harsh realities while also revealing the strength of his character. As he looked towards the future, Nazario knew that his journey was far from over. The road ahead would be challenging, but he was determined to turn his pain into purpose, hoping that his story might spark the change needed to prevent others from experiencing the same injustice. The Windsor incident casts a long shadow over America's ongoing struggle for equality and justice. Lieutenant Nazario's ordeal reverberated far beyond Virginia's quiet streets, igniting fierce national debate and soul-searching. His bravery in coming forward despite personal cost thrust crucial issues of systemic racism and police reform into the spotlight. As we grapple with the aftermath of this harrowing encounter, a pressing question emerges. How will each of us contribute to forging a more just society? The path ahead is fraught with challenges, yet it demands our collective action. Whether through grassroots involvement, advocacy for reform, or fostering open dialogue, every effort toward progress carries weight. Lieutenant Nazario's experience serves as a stark reminder that a uniform of service should command respect, not suspicion. His story stands as a powerful testament to the resilience of those who dare to stand up for what's right, even in the face of injustice. As we move forward, let us carry the lessons of this incident with us, working tirelessly to build a nation where true equality is not just an ideal, but a lived reality for all. Join our community of people who believe in justice, empathy, and powerful storytelling. By subscribing, you're not just watching. You're part of a movement that values real stories and change. Add us to your daily routine and make every story count. Subscribe and join us each day for stories that make an impact.